The unspoken crown. When Kensington Palace released a photo of the missing Princess Catherine, the world breathed a sigh of relief. But it was a lie. The picture was a clumsy fake, designed to hide a devastating secret. When the image was killed by global news agencies, it exposed a desperate cover-up and triggered the monarchy's worst crisis in a generation. The year 2024 dawned on a British monarchy that craved stability. With a new king on the throne, the House of Windsor was meant to enter an era of quiet consolidation, a steadying of the ship after years of turmoil. But that hope was brutally extinguished. Instead of peace, the year unraveled into the most harrowing and chaotic period the institution had faced in living memory. The gilded facade of royalty, so carefully maintained for centuries, was ripped away, exposing a raw, terrifyingly human narrative of survival, succession, and a crisis that threatened the crown itself. At the epicenter of this seismic shock was not the aging king, but his daughter-in-law, the picture of modern royalty, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Her journey from a quiet, middle-class upbringing in the English countryside to the suffocating grandeur of the global stage was already the stuff of legend. She was Tinseltown's perfect princess, the commoner who had won the heart of a future king. But her fairy tale was about to take an unbelievably dark turn. As she was forced to confront a devastating and intensely private health battle, a far more urgent question emerged from the shadows, one that chilled the palace corridors to the bone. Was the world, or even the United Kingdom, truly prepared for the reign of Queen Catherine? The whispers began as a low, ominous murmur, a dark undercurrent of fear beneath the polished surface of royal ceremony. The truth of what was unfolding behind the locked gates of Windsor was far more terrifying than anyone could imagine. It was a secret that, once revealed, would not only test the resilience of a family, but would push the thousand-year-old monarchy to the absolute brink of collapse. The stage was set for a tragedy of dynastic proportions, and the woman who was meant to be the monarchy's salvation was now at the heart of its potential damnation. It all began with a lie wrapped in medical jargon. In January, a chillingly sterile announcement emerged from the palace press machine. The Princess of Wales had undergone a planned abdominal surgery at the exclusive London clinic. The statement was designed to project calm and control, assuring the public that the procedure was a routine success and that the princess would be convalescing privately away from her duties until after Easter. It was a standard piece of royal communication, meant to be read and forgotten. But the worst was yet to come. As the days bled into weeks, the initial calm curdled into a tense, gnawing unease. The promised updates never materialized. Instead, Kensington Palace erected a stone wall of silence, a barrier so absolute and impenetrable it became a story in itself. This wasn't the managed privacy the royals were known for. This was a complete information blackout. A terrifying vacuum formed where a beloved public figure used to be, and into that void rushed a torrent of the most bizarre and depraved conspiracies the internet could conjure. The theories, ranging from the absurd to the sinister, spread like a digital plague, fueled by the crown's deafening silence. The irony was brutal. The woman who was once the most photographed in the world, whose every move was documented and dissected, had simply vanished. Her absence was a gaping wound in the public consciousness, a mystery that grew more frantic with each passing day. The stoic, never complain, never explain mantra of the old guard was failing spectacularly in the modern age. Every day of silence was another shovel of dirt on the grave of public trust. People were no longer just concerned. They were suspicious. It became agonizingly clear that something was terribly wrong. The monarchy's refusal to speak was no longer seen as a mark of dignity or a respect for privacy. It was seen for what it was, a desperate, terrifying cover-up. The pressure had become a raging inferno, and Kensington Palace finally buckled. In a desperate, last-ditch attempt to quell the rampant speculation and silence the howling mob, they released a photograph. It was for Mother's Day in the UK, a calculated move designed to project warmth, health, and familial bliss. The image showed a smiling, radiant Catherine, surrounded by her three beautiful children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. For a fleeting, fragile moment, the world exhaled. The princess was alive. She was well. The nightmare was over. But that relief curdled into pure, unadulterated horror. Within hours, the carefully constructed lie began to unravel. Eagle-eyed observers and amateur digital sleuths on social media noticed jarring inconsistencies. The sleeve of Princess Charlotte's cardigan was strangely blurred and misaligned. A zipper on Catherine's jacket seemed to vanish into thin air. It wasn't just imperfect, it was impossible. Then, the bombshell. Major global news agencies, including the Associated Press, Reuters, and Agence France-Presse, issued a kill notice, an urgent advisory for all outlets to delete the photograph from their systems. Their verdict was damning. The image had been manipulated. It was a digital Frankenstein, a clumsy, almost insulting forgery. The betrayal was absolute and catastrophic. In their panicked effort to project an image of perfect family harmony, the palace had deployed a lie. They hadn't just misled the public, they had destroyed their own credibility, perhaps irrevocably. The scandal exploded. In a move of staggering humiliation, a personal apology was issued from Catherine herself, admitting she had experimented with editing, but the damage was done. The trust, so carefully cultivated over a decade of dutiful service, was shattered in an instant. The fairy tale had become an utter nightmare. The faked photo had turned a simmering crisis into an exploding catastrophe. The palace was backed into a corner, its credibility in tatters, its frantic lies exposed to the world. There were no more moves to make, no more spin to deploy. They had no choice but to finally reveal the devastating truth they had fought so hard to conceal. And so, the world was presented with another image, but this one was horribly real. In a pre-recorded video, a fragile and utterly solitary Catherine sat on a wooden bench in the tranquil gardens of Windsor. The setting was serene, but the atmosphere was thick with dread. Dressed in a simple striped sweater, her face was pale, her frame visibly thinner. Her voice, when she spoke, was steady, but her eyes held the crushing weight of an unspeakable burden. Then came the bombshell. In a calm, measured tone that belied the horror of her words, she announced to a stunned and silent world that she had cancer. Post-operative tests following her January surgery, she explained, had found cancer had been present. On the advice of her medical team, she was now in the early stages of a course of preventative chemotherapy. It was a moment of shocking, unfiltered candor, a raw confession from a senior royal unlike anything the world had ever seen. The carefully constructed wall of regal mystique came crashing down in an instant. This was not a formal statement. It was a desperate plea. A plea for time, for privacy, and for her young family to be allowed to process the horror away from the relentless, predatory glare of the public eye. She spoke of the immense shock of telling her children, of the comfort she took from Prince William being by her side. In that moment, stripped of all pomp and circumstance, she was not a princess. She was not a future queen. She was a mother, a wife, and a woman confronting her own mortality, fighting for her life in her darkest hour. Catherine's bombshell confession was a brutal, gut-wrenching shock to the system, but the nightmare was just beginning. Her diagnosis was not an isolated tragedy. It was the second devastating blow to a monarchy already staggering and on its knees. Just weeks earlier, Buckingham Palace had been forced to announce that King Charles III himself was undergoing treatment for an undisclosed form of cancer. Suddenly, in a cruel twist of fate, two of the most senior figures in the House of Windsor, the reigning monarch and the future queen, were simultaneously battling a life-threatening illness. The institution began to hemorrhage stability. The line of succession, once a symbol of unbreakable certainty, now felt terrifyingly fragile. With the King and the Princess of Wales both incapacitated and removed from public life, the full, crushing weight of the crown fell upon the shoulders of one man, Prince William. He was left as the sole senior working royal, the last man standing in a dynasty suddenly beset by a double curse. The consequences were disastrous. The monarchy, an institution that for 1,000 years had projected an image of eternal, unflappable continuity, now looked vulnerable, frail, and on the verge of total collapse. Royal experts and historians were quick to draw parallels to the darkest moments in the Crown's history, calling it the most precarious and unstable period for the British monarchy since the abdication crisis of 1936, when King Edward VIII abandoned the throne for love, plunging the nation into constitutional chaos. This time, however, the enemy wasn't a scandalous romance. It was a silent, insidious disease that had laid siege to the very heart of the royal family, leaving a nation and the world to watch in horror as the House of Windsor teetered on the precipice of ruin. Prince William, the heir to the throne, found himself trapped in an impossible, waking nightmare. He was suddenly tasked with the unbearable burden of being the public face of stability for an entire nation, projecting strength and continuity, while privately navigating the profound, gut-wrenching crisis of both his wife's and his father's illnesses. The stoic mask he was forced to wear in public hid a man under siege. He was forced to reconcile his sacred duty to the crown with his primal responsibilities as a husband watching his wife suffer, and as a father desperate to shield his 3 young children from the unfolding horror. In a move that spoke volumes, he made his choice clear. He dramatically scaled back his royal obligations, cancelling appearances and retreating from public life to remain at Catherine's side. This decision was a powerful demonstration of his priorities, a silent declaration that his family came before the firm. But it came at a terrible price. His absence from the royal stage only highlighted the monarchy's desperate, almost pathetic, shortage of senior working royals. The institution was hollowed out, a skeleton crew trying to run a global enterprise. Every rare public appearance became a forensic examination. The world's media scrutinized his every gesture, every flicker in his eyes, searching for signs of the immense strain he was under. The effect was startling. His face, once boyishly handsome and quick to smile, now appeared gaunt, etched with the deep lines of sleepless nights and constant worry. He was no longer just a prince in waiting. He had been transformed by tragedy into a caretaker, a protector, and the sole, trembling anchor for a dynasty adrift in a terrifying sea of uncertainty and fear. He was holding the monarchy together with his bare hands, and it was threatening to break him. Then, out of nowhere, a cruel twist of fate derailed everything. Amidst the grim reality of cancer treatments, hushed palace corridors, and a monarchy in turmoil, a new narrative began to bubble up from the toxic depths of the internet. It was a rumor so bizarre, so utterly detached from the horrifying facts, that it felt like a cruel joke. Whispers began to circulate that the Princess of Wales was expecting her 4th child. The story spread like wildfire, a jarring and surreal counterpoint to the news of her devastating illness. For a public desperate for good news, it became a potent symbol of hope, rebirth, and continuity. A new royal baby would be a sign that life could, and would, triumph even in the darkest of times. It was the fairy tale ending everyone craved. But for others, it was a grotesque and illogical fantasy that bordered on madness. The disconnect from reality was staggering. How could a woman undergoing a grueling course of preventative chemotherapy, a treatment designed to poison and kill rogue cells, possibly be pregnant? The rumor, wholly unverified and medically nonsensical, refused to die. It highlighted the public's profound, almost pathological need for a happy ending, a desperate refusal to accept the harsh, ugly truth. It was a bizarre testament to the deep emotional investment millions of people had in the lives of a family they had never met, a family whose real-life tragedy was being rewritten in real time into a bizarre, fictional soap opera. The line between fact and fantasy had completely dissolved. To truly understand the public's frantic obsession with a phantom 4th child, one must look back at Catherine's brutal and agonizing journey through motherhood. It was a path that was cruelly stripped of joy, a far cry from the idealized, serene image of royal bliss the palace desperately tried to project. Her pregnancies were not a magical time. They were a private hell made excruciatingly public. Her first pregnancy with Prince George, the future king, was not a cause for celebration. It was a horrific physical ordeal. The princess was afflicted with hyperemesis gravidarum, a severe and utterly incapacitating form of morning sickness. This is not the gentle nausea of a typical pregnancy. It is a relentless, pathological condition that causes constant, violent vomiting, dramatic weight loss, and life-threatening dehydration. It is an illness that goes far beyond normal discomfort, a waking nightmare that often requires hospitalization and extensive medical intervention just to survive. Catherine's suffering was so extreme, her condition so perilous, that the palace was robbed of the chance to manage their own narrative. They were forced to announce her pregnancy far earlier than planned, after she was rushed to the King Edward VII's hospital in London, her body completely ravaged and depleted by the condition. The entire world watched as she was effectively imprisoned by her own biology. It was a brutal, public introduction to the savage physical toll of creating an heir to the British throne, a grim foreshadowing of the pain that would come to define her royal experience. Sadly, it was only the beginning of the end of her privacy. The physical and mental burden of hyperemesis gravidarum was immense, a constant, debilitating onslaught that left her utterly broken. In a startlingly frank interview years later, long after the ordeal, Catherine made a chilling confession. She admitted that she was not the most content of pregnant individuals, a masterful piece of royal understatement for what was clearly a living hell. The relentless suffering forced her to seek out methods to reclaim some semblance of control over her own body, which had become a prison. This desperate search led her to hypnobirthing, a technique that uses deep relaxation, visualization, and controlled breathing exercises to manage pain and anxiety during labor. In her own words, she clarified that it wasn't a romantic fantasy about Prince William whispering sweet nothings in her ear. It was a weapon. It was a tool she needed for herself, a way to build the mental fortitude required to survive the relentless physical and psychological onslaught she was fighting back. This admission offered a rare, humanizing glimpse behind the impenetrable palace facade. It revealed a woman who was not passively enduring her fate, but actively battling her circumstances. Hypnobirthing became her secret weapon, a quiet act of defiance. It was a way for her to shape her own experience, to carve out a tiny piece of autonomy in a life that was otherwise completely controlled. And in doing so, she subtly challenged the centuries-old, stiff upper-lip expectations of royal life, proving that even a future queen had to fight for her own sanity. Yet even in the throes of her agonizing pregnancies, small moments of relatable humanity shone through the suffocating curtain of royal protocol. These tiny cracks in the facade further endeared her to a public desperate to see the woman behind the title. During her grueling pregnancy with Prince George, her cravings were not for gilded delicacies or extravagant meals prepared by a legion of royal chefs. She craved simple, comforting, almost childlike foods. She reportedly favored thinly sliced pickles on plain brown toast and developed a significant, almost insatiable appetite for vegetable curry. But this detail came with a shocking twist. The curry wasn't a gourmet creation from the palace kitchens. It was from a small, local shop in her quiet hometown of Bucklebury, a place run by family acquaintances she had known for years. The image of the future Queen of England, the wife of the heir to the throne, relying on a familiar, hometown takeaway, was a powerful and subversive symbol. It was an act that stripped away the pomp and circumstance, revealing a woman whose fundamental needs and comforts were, in many ways, utterly ordinary. These small, intimate details resonated deeply with the public. They painted a portrait of a monarchy that was, in some small, fragile way, just like any other family. It was a carefully cultivated image of normality that would become the cornerstone of her public persona, a persona that was about to be tested by the brutal realities of her life in the gilded cage. But the public's fascination extends far beyond pregnancies and phantom babies. It reaches deep behind the palace walls, into the very atmosphere William and Catherine have cultivated for their children. Their parenting philosophy is nothing short of a quiet, subversive rebellion against centuries of cold, unfeeling royal tradition. They have deliberately and systematically rejected the distant, emotionally sterile upbringing that defined and often damaged previous generations, an archaic system where royal children were raised by a fleet of nannies and saw their own parents for fleeting, formal moments that were more like state appointments than family time. Instead, they have championed a radical, hands-on approach. Their entire family life is centered on emotional bonding, open communication, and a desperate, almost obsessive desire for their children to experience a relatively normal childhood, free from the crushing weight of their destiny. Prince William, in particular, has been shockingly vocal about this personal mission. In a stunning break from royal protocol, he has repeatedly stated that while he takes his duties to the crown with the utmost seriousness, nothing, absolutely nothing is more important than his sacred commitment to being a present, engaged, and loving father. This wasn't just a new parenting style, it was a revolution. It was a direct repudiation of the emotionally barren world that produced his own father and generations of royals before him. By prioritizing bedtime stories over state dinners and school runs over royal walkabouts, William and Catherine were sending a clear and defiant message to the old guard. The emotional health of their children would not be sacrificed at the altar of duty. It was a promise to nurture a new kind of royalty, one grounded in love, not just lineage. To understand William's parenting revolution, you must understand that his every decision is haunted by the ghost of his mother, Princess Diana. His childhood was not a fairy tale. It was a front-row seat to a tragedy. He witnessed firsthand how the rigid, unfeeling, and pathologically dysfunctional nature of the firm systematically crushed his mother's vibrant spirit, treating her not as a person, but as a problem to be managed. Her pain was his pain. Her struggle became his defining trauma. Diana, in turn, fought like a lioness to give him and his brother, Prince Harry, a taste of life beyond the gilded cage. She rebelled against the suffocating protocol, smuggling her sons out for forbidden trips to amusement parks, fast food restaurants, and homeless shelters. These weren't just outings, they were lessons in humanity, calculated attempts to expose them to the real world and inoculate them against the poison of unchecked privilege. Those experiences left a deep and indelible mark on William. The trauma of his mother's life and her horrific, untimely death became his life's mission. He often speaks of his powerful desire to raise his children to be compassionate and emotionally intelligent, a direct and living legacy of his mother's defiant approach to royal life. By being intimately involved in the school run, reading bedtime stories, and fiercely prioritizing private family time over public duty, he and Catherine are making a silent, solemn vow. They are vowing to break the tragic, toxic cycle of emotional neglect that destroyed Diana and has plagued the House of Windsor for generations. Their parenting is not just a choice, it is their greatest tribute to her memory and their single most defiant act against the institution that broke her. A cornerstone of their parenting revolution is a profound and almost obsessive focus on mental health. Through their groundbreaking Heads Together initiative, William and Catherine have worked tirelessly to dismantle the crippling stigma surrounding mental illness, an issue the royal family has historically ignored with a pathological level of denial. It was a topic deemed shameful, a sign of weakness, something to be locked away and never discussed. William has smashed that tradition to pieces. He has explicitly and repeatedly stated his wish for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis to grow up with the emotional literacy, to articulate their feelings, to understand that their mental and emotional well-being is paramount, even more important than their royal status. He once expressed profound encouragement after a visit to a school where he saw young children openly and freely discussing their sadness and worry, complex feelings that many adults, especially within his own family, are still completely unable to confront. For William, this was not just a positive sign. It represented real, tangible progress against the generational trauma he inherited. Becoming a father, he admitted in a moment of startling candor, had fundamentally changed him. It forced him to contemplate the broken world his children would one day inherit, and the absolute, non-negotiable necessity of preparing them emotionally to navigate its complexities. He was not just raising a future king, he was raising a human being, a lesson the monarchy had forgotten at its own peril. It was a quiet acknowledgement that the crown is worthless if the head that wears it is unwell. William has been startlingly, almost dangerously, candid about the brutal internal conflict that rages within him, the constant war between his sacred role as a father and his inescapable destiny as a king. In a bombshell 2017 interview, he articulated a powerful desire for his son, Prince George, the future monarch, to be raised in an environment that is real and grounded, and not, in his chilling words, stuck behind palace gates. It was a stunning indictment of his own upbringing and the suffocating institution he is set to inherit. He openly acknowledged the immense, almost impossible difficulty of achieving that fragile balance under the relentless, soul-crushing glare of the public eye, but he affirmed with a steely resolve that it was a battle worth fighting to the death. He has consistently and publicly praised Catherine, often referring to her as a brilliant mother and explicitly crediting her with being the sole source of stability in their family unit. Their partnership, forged in the crucible of public life, is the foundation upon which this new, more human, and infinitely more fragile model of royalty is being built. This radical father-first mentality may ultimately become their most significant and enduring legacy. It is a quiet, profound recalibration of royal priorities, a deliberate shift away from the cold, heartless calculus of duty and toward the simple, revolutionary idea of family. It is a choice that could not only save his own children from the fate that befell his mother, but could redefine the very essence of the monarchy for a new and far more skeptical century. But the worst was yet to come. Then, after 6 agonizing months of silence, secrecy, and rampant speculation, Catherine made a stunning and triumphant return to public life. In June of 2024, she attended Trooping the Colour, the spectacular annual military parade held to celebrate the king's official birthday. Her sudden appearance was a pivotal, heart-stopping moment that sent shockwaves around the globe. Dressed in an elegant white dress, she looked impeccably poised and regal, every inch the future queen. But it was a fragile performance. A new, almost heartbreaking vulnerability was unmistakable in her thinner frame, and the guarded look in her eyes. The crowds lining the mall erupted. Deafening roars of approval and affection rained down upon her, a massive, cathartic wave of public relief washing over her carriage. The conspiracies and whispers of the past months dissolved in an instant, replaced by a profound and overwhelming sense of shared humanity. Later, on the hallowed balcony of Buckingham Palace, photographers captured a fleeting, poignant, and intensely private moment. As the family stood before the world, William turned and looked at Catherine, his eyes filled with a gentle, protective smile. Her response was electric. Her own reserved expression melted away, replaced by a broader, more genuine grin that reached her eyes. Body language experts immediately seized upon the interaction, noting how her posture, understandably rigid and reserved, visibly softened in his presence. It was a silent, powerful message to the world, a declaration made without a single word. She was still standing, and he was, and always would be, right by her side. Their union was unbreakable. The day after her dramatic, high-stakes return to the public stage, the family released another powerful and meticulously crafted symbol of their resilience. For Father's Day, Kensington Palace unveiled a new, intimate photograph, personally taken by Catherine. It depicted a smiling, relaxed Prince William on a windswept beach, his arms around his 3 children, all of them looking away toward the sea. It was a perfect portrait of familial bliss, a stark, calculated contrast to the immense adversity and private horror they were enduring. The caption, presented as if written by the children themselves, was simple and achingly heartfelt. "We love you, Papa. Happy Father's Day." This small, intensely personal gesture was a masterstroke of public relations. It was a disarmingly simple image that carried an immense weight. It was designed to underscore the family's powerful, unbreakable bond, and to reinforce the carefully curated message that they were drawing their strength not from the institution of the monarchy, but from each other. In the face of a terrifying dual health crisis that threatened to topple the House of Windsor, they presented a flawless, united front. It was an image of a fortress of love, standing defiant against the relentless, crushing pressures of their public lives and private tragedies. They were not just a royal family, they were survivors, and this was their declaration of war against the darkness that had descended upon them. It was a performance, but it was a perfect one. But the fairy tale image of her triumphant return was just that, a fairy tale. Just before her dramatic appearance at Trooping the Colour, Catherine provided a rare and shockingly candid update on her health. In a carefully worded written statement, she admitted that, while she was making good progress, her recovery was far from over. Her battle was ongoing. Then she uttered a phrase that resonated with millions who have faced similar private wars. She spoke of having good days and bad days. It was a devastatingly simple and powerful admission. On the bad days, she confessed, she felt weak, exhausted, and was forced to surrender to her body's overwhelming need to rest. On the good days, when she felt strong enough, she found joy in engaging with her children's school life and spending quiet time on the things that gave her a flicker of energy and hope. This was a humbling, almost revolutionary confession from a future queen. It was a statement that completely dismantled the age-old myth of royal invincibility, the stoic, unfeeling facade that the monarchy had hidden behind for centuries. She was not presenting herself as miraculously cured or superhumanly resilient. She was admitting, with a quiet and profound courage, that she was in the thick of a grueling, unpredictable, and terrifying fight for her life. And in her raw, unfiltered honesty, she forged a bond with the public that was deeper and more powerful than any royal ceremony could ever achieve. Her courage was now her crown. In the chaos and decay of the 21st century monarchy, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has emerged as its most steadfast and unwavering figure. Her slow, meticulous transformation from a quiet commoner to the future Queen of England has been a decade-long masterclass in grace under extreme and unrelenting pressure, but her recent health crisis has dramatically accelerated this narrative. Her private battle has become a public spectacle, forging her character in the brutal crucible of unimaginable adversity. The quiet poise and steely strength she has shown have silenced many of her harshest critics and solidified her position as the unshakable anchor of a new generation of royals. She has become the monarchy's greatest asset, but underneath the tidal wave of public acclaim and sympathy, a more complex and dangerous question persists, whispered in the corridors of power and debated in the halls of government. Is she truly prepared to bear the full, crushing weight of the crown? The role of queen is no longer merely ceremonial, it is a political and cultural minefield, and more importantly, is a nation still grappling with its own identity, ready for a queen shaped not by the divine rights of an ancient bloodline, but by the raw, brutal realities of sheer will and human survival. Her greatest strength, her connection to the common people, may yet prove to be her most fatal weakness in an institution that despises change. The knives are out, and her fight for the throne will be just as vicious as her fight for her life. When Catherine Middleton married Prince William in a lavish ceremony at Westminster Abbey in 2011, it was universally hailed as a modern fairy tale. The beautiful commoner had captured the heart of the handsome prince. But for the ancient and insular world of the monarchy, her greatest strength was also her fatal flaw. Unlike nearly all of her royal predecessors, Catherine did not come from the aristocracy. She possessed no noble bloodline, no ancestral connection to the intricate web of families that had ruled Britain for 1,000 years. Her lack of blue blood remains a deeply contentious issue for the monarchy's most ardent and powerful traditionalists. To them, she is an outsider, an arriviste whose presence dilutes the sacred purity of the royal lineage. They may see her popularity as a fleeting trend, but her very existence as an impediment to her ever being fully and truly accepted as queen. To the old guard, she will always be an imposter on the throne. However, for the vast majority of the public, her middle-class background is precisely what makes her so compelling. It represents a more inclusive, more meritocratic, and ultimately more modern vision of the monarchy, one where status is earned through years of diligent service and unimpeachable character, not simply inherited by the accident of birth. Her journey has been a powerful, unspoken argument that one does not need to be born a princess to become a queen in the hearts of the people, but the institution she married into is a viper's nest of snobbery and tradition, and a battle for the soul of the monarchy is brewing. Catherine has survived the treacherous, shark-infested waters of royal life by employing a masterful strategy of composed and dignified restraint. It is a game of silent power. She rarely grants comprehensive, tell-all interviews, almost never makes off-the-cuff remarks, and maintains an ironclad discipline by never, ever commenting on the endless, toxic family dramas that swirl around her. Her silence is her shield. This meticulous method has protected her, allowing her to maintain a near-flawless public record, utterly free from the tawdry scandals and public implosions that have plagued other, less disciplined members of the royal family. But that very same restraint has also led some powerful critics to question if she truly possesses the assertive, decisive leadership required of a future queen consort. Her silence, they argue, can be mistaken for passivity. In a fractured age of intense political turmoil and bitter social unrest, the crown needs more than just a silent, supportive figurehead. It needs a powerful symbol who can actively inspire national unity and command respect on the world stage. Yet, it is precisely this quiet, unassuming strength and her unwavering, almost fanatical dedication to her duties that have become an unlikely source of stability in a deeply unstable world. Her approach suggests a different, more subtle, and perhaps more modern kind of power, one based not on grand pronouncements and charismatic speeches, but on the slow, steady accumulation of trust and respect. She doesn't demand loyalty, she earns it, day by excruciatingly difficult day. But looming over every move Catherine makes, every dress she wears, every word she speaks, is the towering, inescapable legacy of Princess Diana. The comparison is both a blessing and a terrible curse. Diana remains a sainted figure, a global icon, beloved for her raw emotional openness, her bold and thrilling defiance of suffocating royal convention, and her almost mystical connection with the public. She was the people's princess, a title she earned by breaking all the rules. Catherine, by brutal contrast, is defined by her adherence to those very same rules. She is prudent where Diana was reckless, methodical where Diana was impulsive. She has chosen to operate carefully, almost surgically, within the rigid confines of the system that ultimately destroyed her mother-in-law. This calculated approach has saved her from controversy and scandal, but it has also fueled a relentless, often vicious, debate about whether she can ever truly emerge from Diana's formidable shadow. However, her shocking and profoundly personal handling of her cancer diagnosis revealed an entirely new dimension of her strength. Her decision to share her vulnerability on her own terms and in her own time was a powerful and courageous act that resonated in a way that was uniquely her own. It was a moment of quiet defiance that Diana herself would have admired. In that moment, the world finally understood. She is not the next Diana, she is the first Catherine. And in a monarchy gasping for air, that may be exactly what the institution needs to survive its darkest hour. As the current, aging generation of royals inevitably fades, Catherine's influence is set to grow exponentially. The cold hard fact is this: when Prince William eventually ascends to the throne, a staggering portion of the monarchy's popular support, and indeed its very survival, will rest squarely on her shoulders. Historically, the archaic role of queen consort was largely ceremonial, a decorative position with little real power. But today, in the harsh light of the 21st century, it demands far, far more. A modern queen must embody a complex and often contradictory set of virtues. She must project compassion while maintaining distance, demonstrate resilience without seeming unfeeling, and forge a genuine connection to the people without sacrificing the mystique that royalty requires. Catherine, while not born to this impossible role, has spent over a decade proving, with almost superhuman discipline, that she possesses these qualities in abundance. She has become the human face of a deeply inhuman institution, a figure of quiet stability and impossible grace, who has single-handedly fortified the monarchy through some of its most tumultuous and self-destructive periods. And now, her personal crisis has only amplified her importance. In a world that is growing increasingly cynical and deeply skeptical of inherited power and unearned privilege, she has become an almost tragic figure of earned respect. And in a cruel twist of fate, the woman who was never meant to be queen may now be the monarchy's last, best, and only hope for relevance in a world that has long since passed it by. The entire weight of a 1,000-year-old dynasty is on her shoulders, and one wrong move could bring it all crashing down. The path ahead for Catherine, the queen-in-waiting, will be arduous beyond comprehension. Her battle with cancer is not over, and the scars of 2024, the lies, the betrayal, the public humiliation will never truly fade. She will continue to face intense, suffocating pressure, relentless public scrutiny, and the unending, ghostly comparisons to the sainted Diana. But if she can maintain the profound bond of trust she has so meticulously rebuilt with the public through her raw honesty, she has the potential to do more than simply survive. She could redefine the very meaning of queenship and, in doing so, secure the monarchy's precarious future. The ultimate truth is this: the institution of the monarchy endures not through pomp, ceremony, or ancient tradition alone, but through its fragile, almost sacred, bond with the people it serves. In an age of swift, brutal, and unyielding change, Catherine, the girl from Berkshire, has unexpectedly become the sole keeper of that bond. Her journey is far from over. Her story remains unfinished. But the path she is now forging, one of pain, resilience, and profound courage, points toward a shocking new chapter for the House of Windsor, a future defined not by the cold certainty of birthright, but by the fire of brutal experience and profound, unbreakable intention. Thank you for watching this video. What are your thoughts on the monarchy's most challenging year? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to Majesty Uncovered for more untold stories. Video description: **** illustration image, prompts, ****, a hauntingly empty corridor inside Buckingham Palace, dust motes dance in a single sliver of cold, blue moonlight from a tall window. The ornate red carpet is worn, shadows stretch long and menacingly, conveying a sense of abandonment and decay. The atmosphere is one of profound silence and forgotten grandeur. AE 169 S 750 style raw Q2, extreme close-up on the sleeve of a child's cardigan, showing the bizarre and unnatural digital blur of a poorly manipulated photograph. The colors are slightly oversaturated, the texture of the knit is distorted, and the lighting feels artificial and harsh. The focus is razor-sharp on the digital artifact, highlighting the clumsiness of the lie. AR-16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A fragile, pale Catherine, Princess of Wales, sits alone on a simple wooden bench in the gardens of Windsor. Her expression is one of quiet, heartbreaking resolve, her eyes holding deep sadness, but also immense strength. She is dressed in a simple sweater, the late afternoon light casting a soft, melancholic glow around her, with the imposing stone castle blurred in the background. AR-16.9, S750, style RAW, Q2. Prince William stands alone on the Buckingham Palace balcony, seen from behind, looking out over an empty, rain-slicked mall. The sky is a bruised purple and grey, reflecting his somber mood. His posture is rigid with the weight of responsibility, his face unseen, creating a powerful silhouette of a man under siege. A16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A low-angle shot of the imposing gates of Buckingham Palace, chained and locked shut, with a single withered rose lying on the wet pavement in front of them. The mood is somber and desolate, with dramatic, overcast lighting emphasizing the cold, unyielding nature of the iron bars. The palace itself is a dark, looming presence in the background. AR-16-9, S750, style RAW, Q2. A split-screen image. On the left, a vibrant and smiling Princess Diana in the 1990 seconds, bathed in warm light. On the right, a pensive and modern Catherine, Princess of Wales, in cool, contemporary lighting. The contrast is stark, highlighting the immense legacy and the different paths of the two women who captured the world's heart. AR-16.9/S750 style RAW Q2, an overhead drone shot of the Tower of London at dusk, its ancient stones glowing ominously under dramatic floodlights. The River Thames flows like black ink beside it, and the modern city skyline is a distant, glittering backdrop. The image evokes a sense of dark history, power, and enduring crisis. AR-16-9/S750, style RAW Q2. Illustration image prompts 16:9, 1080p, ***, SEO tags. ***, Princess Catherine, Kate Middleton, Royal Family, British Monarchy, Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton Cancer, Royal Crisis, Prince William, King Charles, Windsor, Buckingham Palace, Royal Scandal, Kensington Palace, Photo Scandal, Royal Family News, Princess Diana, Royal Succession, UK History, Monarchy Documentary, SEO tags. ***, thumbnail prompts. ***, an extreme close-up of Catherine, Princess of Wales, from her video announcement. Her eyes are filled with tears, but her expression is determined. The lighting is soft but dramatic, highlighting the emotion on her face. The background is blurred, making her the sole focus. The image should be intensely emotional and human. AR-16-9, AS750, style RAW Q2. A split image thumbnail. On the left, the infamous manipulated family photo, glowing with an artificial light and marked with a red fake stamp. On the right, a dark and imposing silhouette of Buckingham Palace under a stormy sky. The contrast creates immediate intrigue and signals a story of deception. AR-16-9, S750, style RAW Q2, a photorealistic, somber portrait of Prince William, his face etched with worry and exhaustion. He looks directly at the camera, his blue eyes conveying the immense pressure he is under. The lighting is stark and high contrast, like a dramatic character poster for a political thriller. AR-16-9, S750, style RAW Q2, a highly cinematic shot of a single, ornate royal crown, sitting on a simple wooden bench in a deserted, foggy park, mirroring the setting of Catherine's cancer announcement. The crown is slightly tarnished, and the mood is one of isolation and abandoned power. This visual metaphor is powerful and thought-provoking. AR-16.9, S750, style RAW not Q2. A shocking close-up on a smartphone screen displaying the kill notice from a major news agency for the royal photograph. The text is sharp and in focus, while in the background, a blurred and distorted image of Catherine is visible. The prompt should capture the digital nature of the scandal and the moment the lie was exposed. AR-16.9, S750, style RAW Q2, thumbnail prompts 16:9, 1080p, engaging thumbnail concepts, generation summary. Channel name used, Majesty Uncovered. Opening hook, generated 10 to 20 second attention grabber. Total characters, 39297. Chapters generated, 23. Language, English. Knowledge sections applied, 12/12. Cultural elements preserved, yes. Enhanced features, complete package ready.